Hello, friends. This is John McGovern and Andrew Harris here, resuming a longstanding feature of the Palm Beach County Justice Association, which is the judicial profile. And in this age of COVID, we're getting to do our first judicial profile of 2021 on Zoom with Judge Samantha Feuer. And we are excited to have her and thank her for joining us today for a quick spotlight interview. So to begin, we have waited a long time, Judge Feuer. You've been all the way through an election cycle, and you finally made it to civil, and we are excited to get the chance to talk to you. So tell us, first of all, you've been in civil for how long now?
It's been about 4 months, and I'm very happy to be here. And first of all, I want to thank John and Andrew for inviting me for the Spotlight and the Justice Association, which is a great organization, and I try to attend as many events as possible. And I think you guys do great work in the community and great work for trial lawyers and for the community at large. But civil's going very well so far. I mean, obviously, with COVID, it's predominantly by Zoom. But for the most part, the lawyers are following, I guess, what I call the 4 Ps of punctual, professional, prepared, and polite, which is kind of the guideline that I try to utilize for myself as well. And the issues are very interesting. Obviously, a significant amount of reading, but I'm really enjoying it, and it's a lot different from what I was doing in criminal and then what I was doing in family probate.
Tell us a little bit, for those that don't know you as well as we do, tell us a little bit about your background and your path to the bench.
So I grew up in Miami, and my mom was a teacher and my dad was in the Army. And so they always kind of instilled in me the importance of giving back to the community and the importance of doing the right thing. Being an only child, my house was pretty rigid and a lot was expected of me. After graduating in Miami, I went to school at Tufts University in Boston and realized quite quickly that the cold weather was not really for me. The girl from Miami who was trying to figure out how to shovel my walkway, outside my door. So then I worked for Senator Bob Graham for a year in DC. And then I went to law school at the University of Florida, go Gators. And I came back down to Miami, worked as a prosecutor, and then that was where I met my husband, Leonard, who I affectionately and appropriately call my better half. And we didn't want to raise kids in Miami, so we moved up to Palm Beach. We had a couple of friends up here. I took a job at the state attorney's office up here, then was at the attorney general's office as the South Florida bureau chief in the Consumer Protection Bureau. Subsequently, after 5 years there of prosecuting consumer fraud and insurance fraud and mortgage fraud on behalf of mostly elderly citizens in South Florida, I went to Ackerman and did commercial litigation. And then I ran for the bench in 2014 when my kids were 3 and 5 years old. And sort of in a nutshell, just wanted to make sure that everybody's voice was heard and that everybody had a fair shot. And having always been involved in the community, just from my activities as being president of the Florida Association for Women Lawyers, being on the board of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, having started the Women's Foundation, Lucy Brown had said to me a couple times, I should think about running. And, just like there's never any ideal time to have a child, get pregnant, get married, there's never an ideal time to run for office. But it was something that I was very passionate about. And I had a lot of community support, a lot of family support. My son to this day still talks about being able to ride on a fire truck for the St. Patrick's Day parade. And that was a real highlight. So anyway, so having just been reelected and being humbled by the fact that I was reelected without opposition, it really is a job where you can do, and you should, do important work. And it's also a job where I'm able to go out into the community and, mentor students through my Ethical Governance Day events that we started, where we talk about the importance of public service and the importance of ethical public service and jury service and the importance of the justice system and the right to a trial by jury. So it really enables me to do all those things. And the job is an important job. It's sometimes a weighty job, but it's one that I care about very deeply and I take very seriously.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Your turn. I'll wait.
So of course, we're almost a year now since the world turned upside down, literally almost a year. what has been the biggest challenge for you in the courtroom, essentially in the Zoom world here, and as we try and come back to whatever our new normal looks like in terms of ensuring the right to access to the courts, of course, jury trials. I know you haven't had a jury trial yet, my understanding, right? You've got one upcoming. Obviously, we're not going to talk specifically about that, but what are the biggest challenges, and what do you see as the benefits and the things that may stay here, that, in terms of the practice of law in our new normal world?
So yeah, I definitely think, and I talk about this during some fall events and some other events, I think one of the benefits of Zoom is it really helps working parents be able to have that flexibility to, do a UMC remotely, or do, a summary judgment motion remotely, non-evidentiary type hearings, to have them remotely. Obviously, on the criminal side, the challenges are a little more with confrontation clause issues and whatnot. So I do think I'm kind of a silver lining type of person. So I think about how it's enabled working parents to not have to deal with, oh my gosh, I have to drop off at 7:30 so I can make it to UMC's before 8:30 and I'm running around, that kind of thing. Personally, I like that both having Zoom and also having in-person hearings. I think it's a hybrid, because for evidentiary hearings, I've done some bench trials, and I have a jury trial coming up this week, which I'm very excited about. And I'm excited about the evidence portal and being able to have all the evidence uploaded ahead of time. I think for some of the older attorneys, honestly, I think that Zoom is just, the technology, they're unfamiliar with it, and it's just more difficult. My daughter the other day was kind of razzing me because she's like, Mom, you have no idea how to use Instagram. And I said, yeah, I don't know. It's not something that I grew up with. So I think some of the older attorneys, having not used Zoom and having not, used a lot of technology in their law practice, can sometimes pose challenges. But again, I kind of think that in light of COVID, I think that Zoom hearings are here to stay for uniform motion calendar. I've heard a lot of judges talk about that. It's good for the client, good for the attorneys, good for the judges. I mean, I do not all, but I would say 90% of my Zooms, I do them here, because I have two screens and I'm not distracted by things at home. I want to make sure I give everybody, 110% of my time. And, between the dogs barking and the Amazon deliveries and whatnot, if I have orders, I can do those from home, but I try to do most of my Zooms here. And I think that, Zoom is really here to stay. And having taught classes about best practices on Zoom, I encourage lawyers and paralegals and staff to really get up to speed on, how to share your screen, how to use evidence on Zoom, how to use breakout rooms. All of those things I think are really important.
Thanks. Go ahead, John. I know you had a question.
Judge, I want to just go over a couple of questions in a row quickly that I think are important to our members. Tips that you have seen at hearings, particularly UMC hearings, of things that lawyers absolutely should do, things that you find particularly effective, and things that you find absolutely just the list of don't do's.
Right. So I think, obviously, in every division is kind of a little bit different, but in the civil division, as I kind of said before, I want to make sure that I give everybody, 110% of my time and 110% of my effort. And so if a hearing is going to be, and I know everybody's kind of talked about this in the past at bench bar, but if it really isn't going to be 10 minutes, don't set it down on a UMC, because it's not, quite frankly, it's mostly not fair to the lawyers, and it's not fair to their clients. And so for me, I try to make sure that I have a lot of online time open, so online time can be scheduled. Because at UMC, I mean, they're really supposed to be quick hearings. And even though I read everything prior to, it's just, I want to make sure that I give the hearing the amount of time that it needs. So I think that that's important. I think that, like I said before about Zoom, knowing how to share your screen quickly and be able to throw up a document quickly and be able to highlight it or have it highlighted. I mean, I've seen it done really effectively. And even though, like I said, I have two screens, and most judges do, it enables me to really kind of, for lack of a better word, or maybe a good word, to zoom in to the hearing. Documents are right there, and you're sharing the screen, and you're using your whiteboard, and you're really pinpointing, the case law where I need to look at it. So I think that and there's so many Zoom tutorials, And on that note, on the 15th Judicial Circuit website, there are tutorials about using Zoom. There are tutorials about how to use the evidence portal. Lots of YouTube tutorials. So I would encourage everybody to go there and kind of look first to just get up to speed on these issues.
Then let me ask two questions particular to you. We in the Palm Beach County Justice Association over the last couple of years now has really tried to revive our women's section because we are a specialty of the law that has not probably advanced women as much as we should. And that's something that's always been important to you, both on the bench and before you were there. Talk to female lawyers, particularly. Anything you want to say to them about balancing career and family and children and husbands and lives, the things that we all know that you have to do every day.
Absolutely. And, it's kind of, we always talk about work-life balance and whether that's, kind of a fiction or not, or something that's completely unattainable, that balance between your work life and your personal life. I think that for women, and kind of hearkening back to what I was saying about Zoom, I would really, encourage women to make sure that, remote hearings and that remote access is here to stay, because that really helps women who, tend to, not always, and look, my husband's an equal partner, but, it tends more of the childcare falls on usually the mother. And so when that happens, I think that it's important for employers to understand that, remote access is a good thing and that remote access is here to stay. I talk about this all the time. I was at the Attorney General's office. I had my second child and I wanted to work from home part-time. And I had to write like a 3-page memo on, I have a computer, I have a fax machine, not to date myself. I have a scanning ability, I have a phone, I can log in, and so these are things, I think that that's important. And again, it's not just related to women, but I mean, working parents in general, but more so for women. I also think that, we have to really support each other and mentor each other. I'm so happy. I was set up with, and I think, John, I was telling you this about a couple of days ago, I was set up with a mentee at the University of Florida Law School who's on full scholarship there. And I was only set up with her because she's from Boynton and, obviously in Palm Beach County. And we've had a couple FaceTime meetings. She was applying to a federal clerkship. And I actually, introduced her to a federal judge that I knew. And she just found out yesterday that she was hired for this federal clerkship. So I guess, case in point, we have to really try to support each other in the profession and mentor each other. And that's why Fall does these, 3P events, parenting, practicing during the pandemic, just to kind of talk informally about, what are some of the struggles that we go through. I mean, my husband and I are dealing with an issue with childcare and pickup, and we have to, kind of juggle, and I've had to rely on other parents. And so I think that, we're at a place where women are realizing that, I mean, they need to be, we all need to support each other. It's not just women to women. I've had male mentors and I've mentored, males. And so I just think it's really important that we talk about some of the struggles and we talk about some of the innovative ways that we're managing, whether it's childcare, taking care of our parents. I mean, that's something that can't be underestimated right now, is worrying about our parents and worrying if our parents are, going to get COVID. And I was finally relieved. My dad just got his second shot, turning 80 this year. And so that's something that obviously is stressful for us as well. So, and also we talk about taking time for ourselves and making sure that we're staying mentally healthy. I sit on the Florida Bar Committee for Mental Health and Wellness, and I'm the subcommittee judicial chair. And so we've been doing more for judges to know what resources are available, not only for judges, but for lawyers to disseminate to the legal community, because after this pandemic, there's going to be a lot more mental health issues, unfortunately.
What do you think going forward, when we're talking about women, I know it's not just women, but particularly in our organization, the majority of our members and probably the majority of the lawyers you see come before you now in civil are men. What is the advice that you can give to the women as we emerge from the pandemic as to how they rise up. I mean, obviously, John and I are both in positions of being employers, and the responsibility falls on the employers, but from the employee perspective, to rise up. So, you know, over half of all law school graduates are women, but obviously law, even here in Palm Beach County, you know, the number of female partners, you know, as time goes on. So how going forward, what kind of advice can you give for our male and female members as to achieve what we all want?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important question. I mean, I think, you know, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's actually, I think it's 51% women graduating from law school and 49% men, but then we can't really retain women as they get, you know, into their, you know, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, you know, year, because they're having children or whatnot. So I think it's important for employers to, like I said, recognize that, you know, remote working is viable. And, you know, I was talking to a young woman the other day and I said, well, do you think because of the pandemic, you're actually like this work day is actually contracted? Because we got to this, you know, we used to be like a 9 to 5, maybe not in the legal profession, but we used to be 9 to 5, and then like it was 8 to 6, and then it got to be 8 to 7, and then it got to be 8 to forever, I think. But you think about, I asked her that and she said, actually, I feel like I'm working more because I have more access. So, you know, I work and then I pick up the kids from school and then I make dinner and I get them to bed and then I work again, you know, at night. And I feel like I have so much more, there's no like separation between my work day and my home. So I think that was an interesting take. And so I think that, you know, this balance, which is, you know, not often, if ever, you know, completely attainable. I think that, you know, women, you know, my motto has always been, you know, you don't ask, you don't get. So, you know, if you want to work a hybrid schedule of, you know, half in the office and half at home, you got to ask your employer for that. Don't be scared. Ask your employer for that and state the reasons why you feel that you're able to do it. And I think that if more women ask, more women will get, and it will become more commonplace for women to have this more breathing room. I mean, I think it especially becomes more difficult also with billable hours, because women also feel like they can't make the billable hours and it's constantly a struggle there. And I also think like for trials, I think that, you know, I think like, you know, with people with small children, we've implemented the nursing rooms and we're getting another nursing room at the West Courthouse. I was instrumental in getting one here and then in the South County Courthouse. So, you know, if you are breastfeeding, you're able to actually go do that during trial. And I've had women lawyers do that. So I think that, you know, making it easier for women with children and, you know, kind of working with their schedule a little bit more. And again, you know, you want a flexible schedule, you got to ask for it. You want to jump on a trial, but maybe you got to pick up your kids at 5. You got to say, listen, I'd love to be on a trial with you. I want to be co-counsel to get some experience, but I have a childcare issue. Just like my husband tomorrow is going to have to tell the judge, listen, can you take me first at the 1:15 docket, because he's going to have to pick up Jack tomorrow at 2:15. So I don't know.
We only have a few more minutes. John, I've got one more question if we have time, but John, go ahead, please. I know you've got.
All right. So hopefully I don't take your question since we didn't go over them in advance. Judge Feuer, you're one of the unique judges that has run for election and won and then stood for election again, but you did not go through the JNC process on your pathway to the bench. And I think there's a lot of lawyers in the community that are fearful of running for judge. So my question to you is do you have any advice to lawyers who want to become judges as to what they should be doing and how they should run a campaign? Any tips that you have?
Right. So, you know, I say this all the time. I mean, both processes are equally arduous in their own way. You know, for me, somebody who has I would say a super type A personality, a very gregarious person, I didn't have a problem, you know, talking to people on the campaign trail and, you know, running from South County to West Palm to Belle Glade to North County in one day and trying to bill hours in between. I think that for people who want to run, and I often talk about these different buckets and I do Road to the Bench, which actually I'm doing one tonight. So this is good to start thinking about these things. Is, you got to think about, your professional bucket. You've got to think about your personal bucket. You've got to think about your commitment to the legal community bucket and what you're doing for that. And then your community service outside the legal community, and then your religious community if you have one. And you got to think about those different and ways. And within the professional bucket, you have to think about, do I have civil experience? Do I have criminal experience? Do I have public service experience? Do I have private law firm experience? Do I have PI experience? Do I have family experience? And then figure out where in those buckets, for lack of a better word, you're deficient, and try to, 3 years out, maybe 4 years out, if you're thinking about doing it, start to get experience or start to do things in those buckets. And I'm not saying do them only to run for office. I'm saying do things that interest you, diversify your practice, take a pro bono case in a different area of law. The Women's Foundation, obviously being near and dear to my heart, enabled me to mentor young women who want to be leaders in their community. And that's something that, made me feel really good about being able to give back. And I learned a lot from those young women as well. So I think, in thinking about running, as I kind of said before, there's never a perfect time to run. And it's hard to put yourself out there for sure, whether you're going on the JNC process or the election process. But I always say my door's open, come talk to me. You want to run for office, I'll definitely speak to you. And a lot of other judges who have run have said the same thing. And I think it's important to go into it with your eyes wide open. As we kind of joke around, but it's true. It takes a lot of intestinal fortitude. But if you're already doing all these things in the community and, for your legal community and for your community wherever you live, then it shouldn't kind of be a surprise when you actually decide to run for judicial office, because you've already been giving back.
So you touched on my John, that actually was going to be my question. So I'm diverting. I've called it off here to my other question, my last question for you, Judge Feuer. You mentioned the issue of pro bono work. And I think for our members and the attorneys, so many people in the last year have focused on themselves and their families. The world, as we've got almost 500,000 Americans dead and so many others. But what about the importance of pro bono service to the community going forward, and what your work on that? I think some of our members don't know about the work that you've done. So tell our members how involved and the importance of service in the community.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question, Andrew, because I am the 15th Judicial Circuit pro bono chair, and Adriana Gonzalez has been an integral member of our committee. We had our first event before COVID for the individuals done a certain amount of community service. I can't remember the exact number, but a large number of community service hours. It was a very successful event. We had an ice cream social at the courthouse. And I think, pro bono service is important for a number of reasons. I feel like, as a member of the bar, even though we don't have a requirement to do pro bono, I still feel like it's something we should do. And then secondarily, as I stated before, I think it's important. We have a great legal aid here. Bob Burdish is, I always joke around and say, if you don't know Bob Burdish, that's your problem, okay? Because that it seems impossible for people not to know the good work that Bob Burdish does. But I feel like it just gives you an opportunity to, like I said before, learn a new area of the law, take on a case that you normally wouldn't have. And you hear these stories of these, of attorneys. I had a pro bono juvenile case years ago, and it was extremely impactful. It was a case that was given to me because I'm bilingual. And so the juvenile did not speak English. And so I was able to, help him out with his juvenile case, and also, help with my Spanish, get some experience in juvenile. So it's kind of a multifaceted purpose. And again, it's such a rewarding opportunity to, I would just implore people to take one pro bono case a year. And I tell young lawyers to take a pro bono case, because this is how you diversify your practice and your resume. It's probably not the case that you'll stay in the same area of law your entire legal career. So taking a pro bono case, I think, is helpful for all those reasons. But most importantly, obviously, helping those who need the help, who are indigent, who can't afford legal services.
So John, I'll let you, if you have another question or close. I know the judge has got to get on the bench in a couple of minutes here.
No, we're not gonna take any more of Judge Feuer's time. As we all know, being punctual is important. We said that we would not go past 1:40. It's 1:38, so it's time to stop. But I want to thank you, Judge Feuer, for joining us. And until our members can see you in person, at least they get to see you here on another Zoom that's not a hearing. So thank you very much.
I really like the format. I appreciate it. It's like a virtual coffee talk, except this is my tea.
Andrew Harris, the judge and I do not want to see that FSU business.
Yes, yeah. Sure. I mean, come on. I mean, honest. I'm not the host of this, but I might remove you if I see that again. But anyway, I appreciate the Justice Association and inviting me to speak, and Andrew and John. And again, the Justice Association is such an important part of our legal community, and access to justice is obviously paramount. And I look forward to the jury trial I have this week and resuming jury trials safely, obviously, efficiently, and effectively. So thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And I'll see you either on Zoom or in person.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.